Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time around here. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of our new book, The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 5. Oh my gosh, you guys might know the story. But I woke up on March 20th of 2020, dreaming the idea of doing this, of getting my healers together. Basically, I said to them, the world needs to know how to heal at home right now. Who wants to write a chapter for this book? And that volume 1 book was literally a dream from the universe coming through me. And 24 people said yes in 48 hours. And 5 weeks later, our first book was birthed onto Amazon. And here we are with volume 5, like what? So I've been pinching myself ever since, and I'm so grateful and amazed at what's happened over the last year and a half with this Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing series now. So ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here. I can't wait to get into this discussion. So we have Diana Leader, who is the CEO and head life hack at Crave More Life Coaching, where they change the world by helping women find their voices. And if y'all haven't read Find Your Voice, Save Your Life, volumes 1, 2, or 3 yet, well, 3's coming. So you can't read 3 yet. 3's coming like in a week or 2. So get ready for that. But those books have been amazing. Thank you, Diana, for being here in this book. Kelle Sparta, the spirit doctor, is the founder of the Sacred Power and Purpose Mystery. It's probably all the good stuff, school, and a transformational shaman who supports spiritually minded people in their journey to claim their space, set their boundaries, own their power, and learn to love themselves. Lulu Trevena is the Creatrix of Live Life with Wonder. As a quantum healer and soulful living coach, she is changing the societal narrative around women and age unabashedly. So if you haven't read Wholehearted Wonder Women yet, y'all need to go grab that one off of Amazon. Y'all just going to be reading through the holidays, okay? There are so many amazing books. And Lulu, thank you for being here in this book again. Thank you so much. We have Jennifer Sproul is a realtor with a passion for gracing agefully. Live your best life now, especially in the second half. I swear you guys challenge me with your bios on purpose, okay? Like you put the alliteration in there, you put the words, and you're like, let's see if she can do it. I got through it. So, all right, Diana, you're going to start the party off today. Tell me about the amazing chapter that you wrote.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura, and I'm very happy to be here, especially in the company of these amazing women. So my chapter is chapter 16, and it's called Stop Hiding from Your Voice, Turning Self-Imposed Pain into Freedom. And I wrote it because I know from over 40 years of working with women around their voices that we can be influenced by outside sources, of course, either childhood trauma or other experiences that we may have that silence us. But we also can be kept from speaking and using our voice by ourselves. We can hide all by ourselves because it feels safer there sometimes. It feels safer to be able to not speak up. It feels safer to not step up and step out and do the things that we really want to do. And once we are there for a period of time, it becomes habit. And we forget that we are the only ones that actually have the power and the responsibility to make the changes within ourselves so that we can begin to use our voices in a way that is meaningful and successful. You know, when we ask for something, we don't want to just have someone say, "Ooh, she's kind of scary. I think I'll say yes." You know, you want to be asking for something that's meaningful to you in a way that is also meaningful for you, but for it to land in a way that people are going to understand. So that's why I wrote it, and it's the story is about standing on the edge of a cliff. When we're standing on the edge of that cliff, knowing that we want more, we really need more, but we're too afraid to take that leap. You know, we've had what's behind us. We've had familiar, the relationships, the hiding, all those things. We know what that is. We're familiar with it. It's common to us. But for whatever reason, we know it's not working anymore, whether it's our insides telling us that, or whether it's our relationships telling us that, which was the case for me. So we're there on the edge of that cliff, and we need to decide, are we going to just fall back into what we know doesn't serve us? Or are we going to take that big friggin' leap into we don't know what? You know, it's dark, it's foggy, you know, it's scary. So that is the point in my story. That's the point that I talk about, where we are left to decide if we're going to leap or we're going to fall back. And then that really is decision making time, and the time that we have to realize that this is on us. This is our decision, this is our choice, this is our life, and nobody around us or any circumstance can change it for us. So grab your power, ladies, because you know it's in here.
So I really believe that when you take responsibility for every single thing in your life, that's actually the ultimate freedom, even though it seems really, really scary. And I feel like that's part of what you're talking about. And I also will just say that find your voice journey has been also mine. And that's why I've written in a couple of your books, like, yeah, please let me write a chapter, because that it's a shared journey. And your third book, the one that we're working on now, Powerful Healers, Spiritual Stories. I love that we got the healers together to kind of share their coming out stories, because part of finding your voice for healers has been, I think, even a notch harder sometimes when you get looked at sideways because you're talking about something that other people can't see, feel, hear, you know. What do you want to say about that?
You know, and I want to first say, hooray for the women that stepped up to, like yourself, Laura, stepped up to just be open about where you are, you know, that coming out moment. Because, yeah, when we have something that is different, perceived as different, you know, I don't think the spirituality really is different, but when it's perceived that way, then it's, you know, we get those funny looks. We get that, she's a little weird. And yeah, and that doesn't feel good, and it doesn't give us the freedom that we're expecting just to say who we are. So the expression of that, and it can be anything, but particularly with spirituality, because it is probably one of the weirdest things that people look at as being the weirdest thing. It's just, you know, it's all part and parcel of the bigger picture. So, you know, I may be spiritual. I may love my hair to be purple. I may, you know, I mean, there are just so many pieces of us, you know, I mean, we are the sum of the whole, you know? So yeah, I'm really stoked about 3. I think that spiritual coming out is, the stories are really powerful, and it's a huge piece, and the number of women that heal just from writing those stories is quite phenomenal, and I'm very proud of it.
Thank you, Diana. I think for the 60th birthday, I'm probably going to dye my hair pink. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about it. Kelle, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Well, it's so interesting that Diana went before me, because, you know, we all, when we're doing healing work with people, we're working with people who have had some sort of trauma or some sort of challenge in their life. And when you said something about, you know, trauma in childhood, I was like, yes, that's exactly what I talk to people about, because my chapter is on boundaries for empaths. And the reason that people become an empath, there are a very small few who are born as empaths, but most actually become empaths because they felt unsafe for some length of time in their childhood, and they learned that by energetically monitoring their environment, that they would actually get warning if something was coming their way, and that's how they became empaths. And so in my chapter, I talk about what my life as an empath has been like and how that journey went. And I provide tools for people who are empaths for how to reclaim control of your energetic environment and how to start to feel safe energetically again. And, I learned these things through my walkabout. I went on walkabout in 2002. I gave away everything I owned, except for my car and my clothes. And no, I did not do it in Australia. it was in the U.S. The definition of walkabout is to walk into the world until you find yourself, right? And so I live in the U.S., therefore I did my walkabout here. And but I learned so much about my boundaries on that journey, because it was about who was I from place to place to place, because I had been a reflection of everyone around me. And I know that a lot of healers can relate to that. It's like I'm a chameleon. I become the reflection of whoever I'm in interaction with. And, it's never actually lying about who I am, because it's always just a part of myself, but there was never this solidity of me. And I, over the years, have learned how to be solid in who I am. And that's the thing that I want to impart to the readers as they come through this process, is how they can learn to do that themselves. Because when you're an empath, you are actually subject to everyone else's emotions, everyone else's strong-held opinions, everyone else's ups and downs. And it's very hard to feel safe in and of yourself. And so the goal is to find a point of emotional safety through finding your boundaries.
Empaths are made through trauma.
Yes.
Tell me more about that. I know you've just talked a little bit about that, but for people who are hearing that sentence for the very first time right now, and a little more.
Okay. So if you think about it as you've been traumatized, you feel unsafe on a regular basis, the easiest way to identify or to feel safer is to be able to predict. So when you get traumatized, the first thing the traumatized brain wants to do is control the outside world to prevent trauma from happening again. And so we try to control, which of course we all know, and if you spend any time in the spiritual world, control is an illusion, but we try, right? We're children, we don't know any better, right? We try. And so we try to control the outside world. Well, the only way to control something is to be able to predict when something's going to happen so that you can make plans, and preferably backup plans and backup plans for your backup plans, right? Because this is what the trauma brain does. And so we try to predict what's going to happen by shoving our energy field out to the edges of the room or the edges of the building, or for some unlucky people, the edges of the earth. So we've all probably known someone in our lives who is someone who deeply feels and is traumatized by genocide happening in another part of the world. And you're sitting there looking at them and going, what is your damage? That it's not here. Why are you feeling it at this level? And it's because their energy field is at the edges of the earth. You'll also note that those particular people don't really have a lot of effectiveness in their own lives. And it's because their energy field is so dissipated that they don't have the ability to direct energy in their own lives, right? And so if we're lucky, we only put it to the edges of the room or the edges of the building and not the earth. But in any way, it works, right? And so we start to be able to monitor everyone around us and how they're feeling, in the hopes that we can then manipulate them into feeling better so that we are not in danger. And that's how the trauma brain works. And that's what creates an empath, is that shoving of your energy field out and thereby having everybody inside your field. So if you're an empath and you've ever tried to set a shield and it didn't work, that's why. They're already inside your field. Your shields aren't going to be effective against somebody who's already inside your field.
All right, you guys. So you all know that when we do these podcasts with these amazing people, that any one of the topics that the ladies are talking about, we could sit here for the entire hour on. So, all right, Kelle, we're putting the bookmark in that one. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Lulu, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. And Kelly, I don't know if you know I'm Australian, so I was like, I think I'm going to have that as a title for a book because I think we're all on walkabout to
Yeah.
find ourselves. So, yeah, my chapter is chapter 18, Dulled by Alcohol, a healing look at your family tree. And in my story, I talk about, how we strive in our life to achieve certain things, and when we get there, we can actually fall into traps of not really feeling the, I guess, elation and the goodness from where we get. And for me, it was, we achieved quite successful with my husband's business, but then we were drinking every single night to the effect that I knew it was affecting my body, that I started feeling in my body this discomfort, this total weighted feeling for a while. And, I have a background in yoga, so I've been very fit my whole life. I've been very body aware my whole life. And to actually get out of bed and feel my feet on the floor, it was painful. So I realized I had to really, turn the mirror back on myself and say, hey, is this where you wanted to be living once you achieved what you thought you wanted? So yeah, it's a story of in my 50s and an unraveling and finding myself at a different level. I talk about addiction not from a trained perspective, just from a living it perspective, and looking at the various ways we do use something to numb ourselves, whether it be, in a way of just a coping mechanism or not actually fully standing in our power. However, we use some, substance or behavior to do that, and how we only can find that by being really truthful with ourselves. And so I give the tool, and in Laura's books we have a tool with each chapter. So I give the tool of actually writing out your family tree, and then in your own understanding, not by going to ask anyone, just in your own understanding, kind of putting down what you think people's addictions or behaviors or things that have been patterns that you've seen in your life. So you kind of get this kind of really overview of how that affects you, because we are carrying on things from our ancestors. Epigenetics is becoming more common. The healing of our ancestors is becoming more common. 30, 50 years ago, we wouldn't have even thought, oh, my great grandmother perhaps gave me this kind of predisposition or whatever, but we're understanding that at a deeper level. So this is, I'd like to say my chapter is a self-exploration and one for you to sit with and then seek from that what you need to do in your life to support you going forward, and not taking on the blame or the shame that often comes with things like addictions.
Thank you, Lulu. The awareness and the vulnerability inside of your chapter was palpable to me. Such big gifts you're giving there, both in telling your story and giving us this tool. We should maybe make a quick shout out to another author, Amy Gillespie Doherty, who has the Ancestors Within series, because Lulu is talking about some of the kinds of tools and things that Amy is touching on. Y'all, we're here to wake you up to what's possible for healing. And there's so many different ways. That's why I have so many different voices here to share today. It's really, really important, because something might, resonate with you. You've heard it maybe 10 times, but you need to hear it the 11th time. And finally, the light bulb goes off. But I wanted to say thank you to all of you for not just saying yes to this, but stepping up in the way that Lulu did with your vulnerability and the awareness. Such big gifts there. So Lulu, your author cast in Wholehearted Wonder Women did that brilliantly as well. And you have a focus for women 50 plus. Why? Talk to me about that, aside from maybe we're 50 plus. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I have that focus because my mother passed at 58, and I turned 58 last year. So it was a real focus for me. What more in my life is possible? And my next book is focusing on kind of a slightly taboo sort of area, really, when we talk about sensuality, intimacy, and passion, over 50. Like, hey, should we be talking about that? Yeah, we should.
Yes.
Now is the time. So I'm all for, being so truthfully real with what's true for each individual person. And, what I love about Laura's books is, each chapter is like reaching a hand out to the reader. How can I help you? How can we walk you forward? And that's what we're trying to do as, companions in your life journey.
Thank you, Lulu. Jennifer, tell us about your amazing chapter.
So first, thank you, Laura, and thank you, ladies. I resonated with everything that everyone said, and it relates to what I have written. And also to say that I am not yet a healer, I am a healee. And that's what my chapter is about, is kind of learning the path through myself. And the chapter is called Gracing Agefully. Gracing because my mother, her name was Grace. And so I spell it Grace, like her name. And my mother had, and I hesitate to say suffered from dementia, because she absolutely did not suffer from dementia. And she had it for about 8 years. She was in memory care. And in that time, a healing occurred between us that hadn't been possible prior to dementia. She suffered from anxiety. She suffered from a lot of things. So what I learned from my mother during that period of time was, I hate to say it, but greater than anything I learned prior to her dementia, and our relationship healed. And my mother lived to be 99 and 9 months, she was a total anomaly in her family. She outlived anyone in her immediate family and other generations by 20 years minimum. She was the happiest dementia patient, I guess we call them. And she shared that energy with the other people in memory care in a way that I think she made a greater contribution to people's lives with dementia than, again, ever in her life. Not that she was a bad person before, but it was palpable what she was able to do with it. Just flowed through her. When she died, I had just turned 60. And I had an epiphany at 61 that I was only halfway. And part of it was because genetically, I could actually do the math and say, it's not out of the question that I could live to be 120. Not out of the question at all. Genetically, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. That's not the point. And then I had listened to the people around me who were 10 years older or in their 70s already. When I would tell stories of my mother, which were always fun, they would say, oh, if that ever happens to me, just shoot me. And I started thinking, this is terrible. It's the people around people with dementia that suffer more than the dementia patients. And that my mother actually lived out all of her fantasies in dementia. So when I thought about, I'm only halfway, I saw a very long horizon ahead of me. And I thought, I've achieved plenty in my life, but I could start over, and I can create a whole new life. I can create income, I can create wealth, I can create beauty, I can heal people, I can heal myself. There's no limit to what can be done at this age. And then I made it a point to say, I'm always only halfway, because we don't know. This might be our last day, or we might only be halfway. So my attitude, and the attitude I hope to help other people achieve in this phase of life, is you're only halfway. You have a huge horizon ahead of you.
Oh, I love this so much. I loved reading your stories about your mom, and especially I can't remember the fantasy about the man, or it was a celebrity. Tell me
Yes,
about that one.
Okay, so my mother, in her dementia, by the way, my father was still alive, and he would visit her dutifully every day in memory care. And she, meanwhile, was fantasizing about, first she was married to Tom Selleck, and he was like the hot star of the era before she had dementia. She had his picture in her scrapbook. She would tell my father that she was married to Tom Selleck.
Oh boy.
And then she was also always an avid baseball fan. So ultimately, she was married to Babe Ruth. And Babe was a very well-rounded character. If you would compliment her jewelry or her clothing, which usually we had given her, she'd say, "Oh, Babe made it," or "Babe gave it to me." So, like I say, she lived out every fantasy, and to the point where the people around her would ask us, "Did she really know Tom Selleck?"
Those were the best pieces. You have a wonderful sense of humor, Jennifer. And this is for Jennifer and for anyone listening who heard Jennifer say, "I'm not a healer yet." So everyone is a healer, y'all. And here's why. Because you're either walking through the world, well, y'all are walking through the world with an energy. So it's the intention of the energy that you bring into the world. You have awareness or you don't. But you are, no matter what, you're bringing an energy into the world, and it affects the people around you. So everyone has a potential of sharing an energy when they're aware, that raises somebody else's vibration, helps them raise their vibration. So we are all guides on this lovely journey. And I think that, Jennifer, your chapter was as healing to me as all of the others, even though you said that earlier.
Thank you very much. And to your point, what I said about my mother was she was a healer. I'm sorry. She was a healer. And
yes,
in dementia, she was unaware. It just flowed through her. And it definitely healed the people around her.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm coming around to all of you with this next question. And Kelly, you're going to be first up for this one. So, sorry, I was a little distracted by the plane coming across Diana's screen. I'm teasing you, Diana. Kelly, so healing is cool, right? We're all in this healing game, but why holistic? What's your version to the answer to this?
What a great question. So the piece that I see most often, and this is especially true when people are first coming into this work, whether they're coming in, usually they're coming in as someone to be healed, right? And they come into the energy healer, usually a Reiki practitioner, because that's most people's entry point, right? And you lay down on the table and you're like, "Do me." Right? It's just like, okay, fix me, do me, I'm not involved. And it's sort of the same way we go to doctors too, in this country, in the US. So there's this concept that somebody's going to do something to you and make you better. But in the energetic world, in the holistic healing context, your belief structures create the energetic blocks that create the dis-ease that exists, that creates disease in the body, right? And so we have to be an active participant in the work that we're doing in order to actually do well. And so, when we talk about holistic healing, we're talking about it from a perspective of the whole being, not just the body, not just the mind, not just the spirit, but how they're interconnected. And so when you do that, it's super important to remember that you are an integral part of that process.
I love that answer. Thank you. There are a lot of different ways to answer this question. And I always ask you, all of you, this because we've had different upbringings too, in terms of mine being Western medical system. and always putting the trust in someone else to look at me. And it was never holistic. And so I have those experiences, right? And when I learned what I learned about holistic medicine and just a holistic view of the mind, body, soul, spirit, wow, again, I'm just going to repeat myself. We're going to show you what's possible when you take the whole being into consideration. It's quite magnificent, actually. So Lulu, what do you want to add to this? Why holistic?
Yeah, Kelly's answer was perfect. And I actually want to premise that the word holistic needs a W in front of it, because it needs the word whole. Because if you start it with the H, it's a whole, and that's not whole, if you make sense. So holistic, to make whole, needs to start with the W. I think often we fragment ourselves into parts, and even in our life, there's the work part, the family part. Like we're good at humans being fragmented and compartmentalizing. We need to kind of collect everything and look at whole as, if I'm feeling, for example, I had headaches as a young child. So what is that part of the headache that is actually affecting the whole of me? We're not just going to treat the headache. We need to say, what else is happening in the environment? What else is happening in your body? So when we integrate and pull back all those fragments, pull back all those parts, is, what the holistic journey is about. And of course, self-responsibility, self-honoring. I use the word reclaiming a lot. We need to reclaim those parts, the parts we've forgotten, the parts we've, are too much to tell anyone, all of that. It's about bringing everything, gathering it all, bringing it all back into the room, and then dealing with the whole being.
Brilliant. Thank you. Jennifer, what do you want to add to this discussion? How has that holistic piece shown up for you?
So it's a really interesting question. And I think probably the lens through which I first really started to experience it was in my real estate practice, in which case I'm looking at people who are going through tremendous life changes. And yet I see colleagues and other practitioners of what I do who treat it as a transaction. And it's, finances and location and other desires, but they rarely take into consideration the emotional drama that is associated with making the choice, going through the process. I mean, it is really traumatic. And I started calling myself a holistic realtor. And to Diana's point early on, you get the woo-woo look whenever you say that, where people just, they think that you're bringing a crystal into the room just to figure out where they're going to move. But it was looking at their entire lives and listening to them empathetically to say, why are they making these decisions, or why are they struggling with these decisions, or how are the couples, coming to terms with it, reconciling kind of their differences. And also a big part of that was removing myself from it, because it's very easy to get sucked into the drama yourself and think, oh, they're mad at me, or they, something has happened that I'm a disappointment to them. So that was where the real feeling of and holistic practice in real estate came to the surface for me. And I started to realize there's something to it. So
I don't know about you all, but I am looking for the holistic practitioners. And I'll move out of the way so you can see the crystals on my little thing back there, okay? I have amethyst back there. And I'm sure all of the rest of the ladies in the room are like, what's wrong with my crystals? Come on now.
I know, sorry. I didn't mean anything about it.
We're going to hook Jennifer up with the crystal ladies. Okay. Jennifer, that's awesome. Yeah, I put the word holistic in front of physical therapist a long time ago. In the beginning of when I was branding myself as a PT, I wanted people to understand that one of the ways I looked at it was that they sat down and they might have the prescription from their doctor for ankle pain. But if I didn't ask them, hey, how's it going this month? What's going on in your life? I didn't find out about the divorce or the job loss or whatever other life thing was going on, that I was actually going to miss a piece of the puzzle for their ankle pain. And I even use ankle on purpose because it's way down there, far away from, everything else. But it really matters to look at a person in all of the different ways. So yeah, love it. Okay, Diana, let's hear what you have to say. It's hard to go last with this question, isn't it?
It's good. Yeah, it is, because everybody else answered so much. Is awesome. So, when I think of holistic, I think of two different things. And the first is, and I take it back, and Laura, you kind of triggered this in me. I take it back to medicine, Western medicine, alternative medicine. One thing that I learned relative to voice over the years was that not everybody has access to alternatives when they want it. And for me, we need to come together and make sure that we all can access whatever kind of care we want and need and we're looking for. So that's what I've had in my head for years. Right now, what all that has developed into for me is my teaching how to connect to all the different pieces of yourself. And back to what Lulu said, it should have a W in front of it for sure, because it is about us as a whole. So if we can't get the kind of care that, whether it's medical, psychological, spiritual, whatever it is, if we can't access that, and we know that that's what we need to be able to grow, then we're not going to grow as we choose to. So yeah, holistic is taking in each piece of it. So sex, spirituality, shoe size, body movement, all of it. Nutrition. It's all of it. And I purposely mix those things up. Your shoe size. Well, most people are aware of that, but there are people who don't honor what they know about themselves, because they're still in that place of hiding. So for me, it's really important to make a point of that it's absolutely everything about us. So I call that deep core mapping, and that's one of the things that I do with my clients, and that I think gives us a holistic perspective on who we are.
You just gave me a flashback to after being pregnant and my shoe size changing and me being in total denial that I was going to have to Goodwill all of my whole shoe collection to move forward with new shoe purchases. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Diana. Yeah. I love that. Again, I love all your gifts of awareness. You're giving these in your chapters, ladies, but you're giving them today too, just talking about these topics and the way that you think about them. So Lulu, for you, I'm going to start off with this question and coming around to all of you. Being a healer is about guiding people on the journey. It's about that awareness. Feeling is healing. So helping empower people to feel is part of this for me. What's your awareness practice look like in your day-to-day? How are you feeling through your day?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a feeling practice. Humans have tended to want to compartmentalize. I use that word again. We want to be intellectual. We want to kind of have our mind as the controller. And I'm much more aware of my body is giving me vital information that I need to pay attention. So if I suddenly get that fear response, it's like, oh, what's that about? Like, pay attention to that and not just kind of quieten it down again. So my awareness practices, I think my whole day is an awareness practice, but I start by calling in, the energy I want for my day. I start by being, I guess my latest words are being in awe, having fascination, having wonder, like still keep them as vital tools as I age. And also having the awareness of tenderness and gentleness with myself, because we can be hard taskmasters, and often others aren't even aware that we are being a hard taskmaster on ourselves. So we've got to pull back that energy from who is that voice that is so critical and so like got the whip at us, you know. I had this beautiful awareness the other day. I opened the fridge, I was home alone, and I was like getting some yogurt out. Yogurt, is that how you say it here? Yogurt. And I was like, you know, I could literally just put my hand in and eat the yogurt. Like, no one can see me. I could do it because it feels good. Like, and that awareness came in of actually you're only supposed to do it with a bowl and a spoon. I was like, well, no. So, you know, being vital and aware in the interactions you have that seem very mundane. I think that's a beautiful awareness practice that I'm cultivating.
I love that. So did you actually do it?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. I'm guilty of slurping it out of the cup before with no spoon. That's happened. Yeah. Jennifer, talk to me about one part of your awareness practice. What does your practice look like on the day-to-day?
So the title of my tool is Feeding the Good Wolf in the Second Half. And probably all of you are aware of the myth of the grandfather and the wolf and the good wolf and the bad wolf. So I found personally, and I know it's different for everyone, that when I wake up in the morning, my head is filled with bad wolf. And often the bad wolf wakes me in the middle of the night. And what I have taken on as a practice is in the morning, I journal that. I do the Julia Cameron, I call it flushing the toilet. She calls it morning pages. I just try to write everything that's going on in my head, and it is not easy. It's like the thoughts are so crazy random that you try to put it down on paper. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have to make sense, but it definitely works. There is an electrical connection between taking it out of here and putting it on the paper to just kind of clear the space. And I think that's probably my most important practice. I have quite a few that I start my day with, but that one is really the most beneficial.
Ah, yes, you had me at journaling. You know, I am that person too. I absolutely love that. It's very, very therapeutic. And I say, I write to feng shui my soul. I got to shift the energy, I got to move it out, and then I can make space for something else to move through, which is a real thing. Awesome. Thank you. Diana, how about you? Talk about your awareness practice.
So, I've never been the kind of person who can just kind of, you know, have an alarm go off in my ear and roll out of bed and be ready to go. So I need some time to just kind of be with myself in the quiet of my bed, with nice cozy covers. It's always cold in the morning, right? To just be with me for a while, you know, just to go deep and to say good morning, say hey, you know, that was a great night, or oh, maybe we woke up a couple of times when we didn't need to. Maybe we should think about how we're going to manage that tomorrow night. And to really be set up my day for feeling the way I want to feel. So I set an intention for what that may be, and I kind of do that in connection with my higher self. So what do you think? You know, you've got this all together. You know, she's kind of my sister sitting beside me. You know, you've got this all together, girl. So, you know, what are we going to do today? You know, what are we going to really focus on today? And then it's my job to keep that going. And that's the mindset stuff that you know so well, Laura. And it doesn't, you know, because it doesn't just happen. You know, we really do have to take responsibility for it happening and make it happen. So whatever I've set the intention for my day, I manage things and dissect, you know, what has happened to see whether or not I've done it, whether it's happened, you know, so that I can actually take a look at the end of the day when I get back into bed and say, that was pretty good. Or I think I'm going to shift that a little bit tomorrow.
Yes, morning intentions set the bar for your day. It's so important. It's a practice. I wasn't always great at that when I woke up. I could have even been having a bad dream or something, and I'm waking with some funkiness, but as quickly as possible, just going to the gratitude. So that's, those kinds of morning intention setting practices are very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Kelle, how about you?
I think everybody's covered sort of the personal practices. So I think what I'm going to talk about is my practice as a shaman and the awareness practice that I use in my healing work, because that is something that I don't think we think about. In shamanic terms, we look at the world as the waking dream and the dreaming dream. And so when we're awake, we are dreaming our lives. And so when I will often find that I'll have a session with somebody coming up, and something that happens to me in my life before the session is actually happening because it's preparing me for the session with the person. And so sometimes I'll be like, what is this? This is not, I don't know what's going on. This is not my normal experience of life. What is this? And then I get on the call with the person. I'm like, oh, this is for them. Okay, fine. And so sometimes, as a healer, we have to become aware of that. And also there's themes. Like yesterday, I had 4 different calls with people in which the same theme was relevant for every single call. And it wasn't that I was trying to make it relevant. It was just, it came up every time. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to say this for the 4th time today. We're going to talk about how to expand your energy field without breaking it. And, because that was what the theme was yesterday. And so, that just to become aware that the world is far more magical and interconnected than we often give it credit for. And nothing is actually random, and it's all relevant. And so when you can sink into that and start to find the patterns that extend throughout your reality, that's when you can start to get the message. Because, when you're a healer doing a bunch of patterns in your classes, or if you're a psychic reader doing a bunch of readings and you get sort of the same message over and over again, that's for you, right? So yesterday's message to me was expand your energy field. I'm like, okay, noted, because I had to say it so many times, right? But that happens in psychic readings too. If you do reading after reading after reading, you'll get the same cards and the same messages showing up, and that's your reading. So if you're just getting started on this, pay attention to your messages.
Yes, awesome. I also wrote down, when we're awake, we're dreaming our lives. I loved that. I'm going to have to make you a meme on that one. Ladies, we're headed to the end here, and I need short, sweet, and powerful for this very last question for all of you, but really this is for our listeners. So Jennifer, you first. There are people who are still struggling, and we're guiding them on this journey the best we can, but they're listening to these ideas and they may still feel really stuck. So what's one thing you'd like to say to our listeners to help empower them to just take one step? How would you help them just step onto the path in a very simple way today?
So I don't know how simple it is, but I think awareness of yourself is the key to unlock all of this. And that so much in my second half, what I'm doing is I'm unlearning what I was taught in the first half of life. And I'm even starting to write about it, where it's take phrases that were just, they became automatic, and think, is that why I'm feeling stuck? Because I have this paradigm that I grew up with that I'm still trying to live through, and it's not working anymore. And one of the examples I just wrote about it the other day is we grew up on look before you leap. And by the time you become 60, you're afraid to do anything because you have to research it and it has to be perfect. So I've turned it around to leap before you look.
I love it. I love that one. I practice that one as well. Diana, what do you want to say to our listeners about this?
So, even though my chapter really is about kicking your own ass, what I want to say in that first little bit for, for people that are really wanting to have some shifts, make some changes, is to just accept who you are right this minute. No matter what's happened, no matter what you've learned, no matter what mistakes you think that you have made, it doesn't matter what has happened. You, as an individual, are completely whole as you are. You have a lot of power in that wholeness. So, first and foremost, accept exactly who you are.
I love it. Thank you. All right, Kelly, how about you on this one? What would you say to our listeners who are still a little stuck?
I had 6 different choices. I'm going to go with this one. So the thing I'm going to say is we provide the destination and the motivation. The universe provides the navigation. Stop worrying about the hows. Stop worrying about how you get there and how it works. Just choose your path. Stay focused on the goal and not the obstacle. Because if you focus on the obstacle, that's where you'll end up. Whichever one you focus on is where you end up. Stay focused on the goal, not the obstacle. And keep taking one step after another. You will get there. Spirit will provide you with direction, but not if you stand there and go, okay, which way should I go? No, you have to take steps. Keep walking forward and Spirit will adjust your path.
Ooh, I love these wise women. Okay, Lulu, you are going to close out our party today. What would you say?
I'm going to come back to I think everyone's mentioned this today, how we talk to ourselves, or that voice that has been there for a long time. I want you to turn it around and use that voice that you would share with a young child, a baby, a pet. I actually want to inspire you to call yourself your beloved. You are your beloved. Show yourself that much love, that you are beloved to yourself.
Nice. Thank you so much. I'm going to add one here. Sometimes the quickest way, take that deep belly breath and just breathe in the gratitude of being able to do that today. Sometimes we just need to breathe, you guys. So authors, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here to share it with everyone today. You're amazing, wise, sexy goddesses. Well, there's a couple of men in the project too, but you all are. And I'm so happy to have you here to share your wisdom with everyone today. You really are amazing. Listeners, if you resonated with something that these ladies said today, please just scroll down a little bit because I have you hooked up there with their websites. Have a click, y'all. Take an exploration, take the adventure, go the next step, see what awesomeness these women are up to in the world, because there is a lot there for you. And of course, remember to join us on our live stream book launch party, December 17th, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to gather with all of the Ultimate Guide authors, and we'll be doing some fun giveaways that day. That's going to be on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. I have you hooked up down there. And of course, if you're listening after December 17th, hop over to Amazon, because that means you can grab your copy. It'll be ready. So maybe you are a wellness practitioner who's ready to share your brave words with the world. I'd love to chat with you. Come to bravehealer.com and let's chat about how we get your words into the world in a bigger way. Lastly, today, everybody, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.